Welcome back, everybody, to the Showdown second segment here. Again, today, Wednesday, February 13th, 2019. Again, thank you for joining me, whether you're watching live or you're watching this back on replay. Always appreciate you taking the time out of your evenings and spending it with me. So I kind of alluded to this before the break, but, so obviously this weekend was the debut of the AAF. And I will, as you've probably been able to tell, I'm not obviously, I'm a football guy. I enjoy football, love college football, but I'm not really all here for, I'm not here for this AAF thing. I'm not going to really devote a lot of my time to watching the AAF. First off, the American Alliance of Football, that's a good name. I'll give them that. But the initials, they just don't really roll off the tongue. NFL, NBA, MLB. It just doesn't really it doesn't really roll off the tongue, really, and I think that kind of, hurts them a little bit, to be completely honest. But it's like the way I see it, it's like it's basically what I think it's going to become minor league baseball in a sense. It's going to become the G League. It's going to become the minor leagues for the NHL. But and I think that's a good thing. Like I think there definitely is a role for this to be a developmental league, but I don't think it's not something that I'm really going to devote a lot of my time to watching. And again, I think they will succeed. I'm not trying to knock the league. I'm saying personally, I probably will not watch that much of the AAF. I'm just not going to do it. I'm one of those people who after the Super Bowl, I kind of like this little break in February and March from football. I like this. I like it so that the other sports can kind of emerge a little bit, especially come March in college basketball. And I think that's maybe where they may struggle a little bit in terms of viewership is that, with college basketball and March Madness. But what they do have going for them is that they're with CBS Sports, and CBS Sports also has March Madness, so they can finagle it a little bit there as well. But again, I think the league will succeed ultimately. I'm not trying to knock the league in terms of how successful I think it is. I'm not going to come out here and say it's going to be an absolute bust of a league. I do think, though, that as time goes on, it will sort of become more of a developmental league, and you will see. I think you will see guys, getting opportunities to play in the NFL, or maybe guys who were on practice squads or were sort of lower on the depth charts in the NFL. Maybe say, you know what? Let me try my hand out here. Let me get this opportunity to show what I can do. Get out there and just ball, and that may just lead to something better down the road. So it's not that I'm knocking the league. It's just it's not something that I'm interested in personally. I think that there's a whole slew of people, who are going to watch this, and that's totally okay. That's totally okay. But, my job here is to give my opinion on things, and I do not see myself as wanting to watch this league. I mean, I was, I went in a bit, the main slew of games was what, Saturday night. I didn't watch a single snap live. I mean, I saw some of the highlights on social media and stuff. And I do think that some of the things that they, did that I saw from on social media was pretty cool. The biggest thing, obviously, was the referee, the replay official, mic'd up and on camera during those reviews. I think that was pretty cool. Additionally, it was nice to hear the coaches mic'd up as well. But so there are some good ideas, and obviously, I think their whole thing is that they're kind of laid back a little bit in terms of sort of the newer NFL rules in terms of lowering the head and stuff like that. And again, there's a whole niche demographic for that. And I do think that the league will do well. But I also think because there's no way it can compete with the NFL, in my opinion. There's just the NFL is way too big. So I think that the AAF, again, it does not roll off the tongue pretty well. it has to look at themselves as more of a developmental league, and forge bonds with teams in the NFL. It doesn't have to be sanctioned by the NFL. It doesn't have to be the minor leagues of the NFL in name, but in spirit, it absolutely could be. So that's the AAF. Again, that annoys me is that it does not, it's tough to say the AAF. It kind of sounds stupid saying it, in my opinion. Anyways, speaking of football, Kyler Murray made his decision to go into the NFL, and some people were kind of knocking him for it, but I think the consensus um, was I guess kind of proud, or not, I think proud is the wrong word, but supportive, and kind of I expected this. Once he was drafted and did not immediately report to camp, I knew they were like, he's probably not. I would have been surprised. I was like, oh yeah, we'll give him his signing bonus. He'll play football and he'll just play one last season of football, and then he'll come back and report to spring training. I think I was just always a little skeptical about that, especially given, again, I had no idea that he was going to turn out to be the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, there were a lot of I had seen some articles about that. Even going into the season, he was in those talks in terms of winning the Heisman. But the favor going in was obviously Tua Tagovailoa. And he very easily could have won it. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, he had a little bit of traction behind him going into the season as well. But Murray had an amazing season in Oklahoma, and I think you could just tell. And I think in the lead up to the Heisman, after the Heisman, their loss to Alabama in the national semifinal, you could kind of just tell that he's, that football had his heart. And I think that was kind of easy to tell, in my opinion, is that, he was going to wind up choosing football. But again, I think he also recognized the business aspect of it as well, where if he could, kind of bait the MLB into giving him more money, who knows, maybe he would have gone to the NFL. I think the whole money argument, it's, oh, you can get more in baseball, but yeah, but the guy has to make it to the major leagues in order for him to do that, but before that, he needs to, be able to make it to the MLB. And it's not, baseball fans know the minor leagues are not a glamorous lifestyle. Sorry, just reading some of the comments here on the Instagram Live. Nice. But it's not a glamorous lifestyle, and it's probably not something that Kyler Murray would have particularly enjoyed, when he probably knew, and people were telling him, and he probably knew deep down that he could, he could get drafted. He'll get drafted in the first round. And he'll probably be starting on Sundays in the NFL. He'll get guaranteed contracts for his first 4 to 5 years. And he will be doing pretty well for himself. And he'll be doing it with the sport. I think a lot of people agree. And obviously he does love a little bit more than baseball, which, there's nothing wrong with that. I saw a couple of tweets, just, kind of, if those who know, I'm a big Twitter moments guy, and he got his own Twitter moment. Oh, Kyler Murray declares for football. And I saw, it's a big blow to baseball. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Because look, like I said, he would have spent at least 2 years. I'm saying at minimum 2 seasons in the minor leagues. I mean, take a look at Bryce Harper, take a look at Mike Trout. They all spent at least 2 seasons, in the, and those are, the top guys. They spent at least 2 seasons in the minor league. So we're talking maybe not until 2022 until we see this guy. And the other thing, he's out in Oakland. He would have been out in Oakland, obviously barring any trade. That's not a major media market. And as somebody on the East Coast in the New York media market, how many times would we actually get to see him play? I mean, that's what people are knocking Mike Trout about all the time, is that he isn't, obviously Los Angeles is a big market, But in terms of baseball, half of the country doesn't see him play because they start the games at 10 o'clock at night. So I think that also would have went into it as well. So I don't think it's that big of a loss for baseball. Baseball will go on. I think baseball kind of has its stars right now. Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, to name a few. Baseball, I think, is doing a better job of getting sort of those personalities in the game. But again, so I don't think it's that big of a loss for baseball. And in terms of football, it should be very interesting to see where he falls. It'd be very interesting if he went to Oakland, the Raiders, considering he got drafted by the Oakland A's. If he got drafted by the Raiders, go team up with John Gruden. I think that would be very, very interesting. But the Cardinals yield a lot of power right now. They yield a lot of power. Do they draft Kyler Murray and then trade Josh Rosen? That would be a very monumental thing, even if they trade out of the number one pick as well. A team maybe like the Jaguars or the Bucks, to trade up and get Murray. But ultimately, and I'll get into it as the weeks come along, I do think that Dwayne Haskins is a much better prospect at the quarterback position, especially long term. But don't want to get too much into that because, again, it's only February 13th. We have a whole other 2.5 months of being able to dissect Kyler Murray and compare him to Dwayne Haskins and talk about the NFL draft and such. So we're going to step aside. We'll come back for another quick segment, I believe. Just have to check with some things, but I do want to, I'm in the business of being a crowd pleaser. So I would like to thank Ryan Weiss. That's his second shout out. Julia Guerin, as well as Corinne Shustic, as well as Jasmine Temple, 4 of you joining with me for the whole segment. I absolutely appreciate it. Julia and Corinne and Ryan kind of been busting my chops a little bit here during the segment. But yeah, so we'll step aside and we'll come back after this.